Hello YouTube friends, Ben Ochart here. Thank you so much for tuning in. And this is a short version of the live stream. There was a little bit of a glitch in the middle of the live stream with the Wi-Fi. We did pick it up again afterwards, but for those of you who don't want to go into the live stream, the over 1 hour long live stream, here's a short, just a short video on the my 10 best filtration tips. And that way you can just get sort of the meat of the topic. And if you're interested in some of the other comments that were made and some of the questions that I answered during the live stream, go ahead and watch the live stream. It's also posted here at the channel. So I'm going to get right into this. These are some of the things I've come up with over the years. And some of them I came up with them. Some of them I stole from other YouTubers. You know who you are. You're not going to get a royalty. But these are the top 10, my top 10 filtration tips. I know there are much more than 10, and if you can think of some, post them in the comments below. I'd like to hear what tricks, tweaks, hacks, things of this nature that you have come up with that helps to improve your filtration. Okay, the results of your filtration. So. Number one is to know the flow of your filter. Okay, how does the water move through your filter, and in particular, how does it move through the media? You know, through the mechanical and the biological filtration. How does it move through there? What direction is it moving in? Okay, the movement of the water through this Sunsun 704B that you see here is very different than how it moves through let's say a fluval. The water in the Sunsun goes from the tank, goes to the bottom of the Sunsun, and then goes back up to the tank. And so if this was the Sunsun canister, the water is going to the bottom of this, swirling around, and then getting pulled up through all the media, pulled up through all of it, and then back up to the tank from the pump motor on the top. So if this is your Sunsun, you would want to know about that flow, so then you know how to position your media now in the trays. Now with the fluval that you can see here, this is the fluval FX6 that I have on the 100. This fluval, the water circulates around the large sponges on the outside of the fluval, and then again using this glass, it goes around and then goes down right down the middle trays. It's pulled down right down the center, and then pulled and then pushed back up to the tank with the pump. That's very different. So what that means is that you're going to set up your media differently. So number two is setting up. And these, number one, number two kind of flow together, no pun intended, but number two is set up your media correctly. So if you know the flow, the direction of the flow of your filter, whether it's a hang-on back, a canister, or a sump, you can then set up your media correctly, okay? So, I draw from some advice I picked up years ago from Richard Through, the pond guru. I'll put a link to his channel below, and the pond guru clued me into this originally. You put your course in the direct, let's say the water is flowing this way. The first thing that water should hit is a coarse sponge. That coarse sponge is going to pick up the big pieces. Then it's going to hit a medium sponge, and then finally a fine sponge. So it's going to pick up the big pieces, medium pieces, and then finally the fine pieces. And then even after that fine sponge, you might have some floss, maybe some of that crib batting floss, some of that polyfill, something like that. You might even use something like a piece of pinky. This is pinky floss, some scraps that I have. And again, because you know the flow, you know that you would put this pinky floss so the water hits it this way. So it hits the white first, the coarse, and then goes over the fine last. So this is like a final water polish. Now, why would you need to know that? Because you want the water traveling over your biological media, your rings, your biohome, your matrix, your marine pure, your whatever you're using for bio. You would want that to have the cleanest water flowing over it. So you really clean that water up, then you run it over the biological media to give clean nutrients to the bacteria living and not clogging up that media. Okay, so number 2, media in the right order. Number three is alternate service schedule. Now, what do I mean by alternate service schedule? If you have 2 filters, do one and then do the other one 2 weeks later. Never do them both at the same time, because if you make a mistake or something, you might create a catastrophic outcome. You might kill off your tank. You might create a lot of stress for your fish. Do one at a time. And on, let's say, the 100, I have 3 filters. I have 2 Suns canisters and a hang-on back. I'll spread those out a couple weeks apart. I'll service them a couple weeks apart. And on this one back here, I have a sump and I have a Sun 704B. I'll never do a major service on all of them. Now, full disclosure, I have 1 filter on the 100. I have a Fluval FX6. So when I service that filter, I don't do a major water change in that tank because it could shock the system. So I just do just the canister. I pull enough water out of the tank to store the media in, but I don't do a major water change. So take steps that will minimize the chances of shocking the system. In this case, alternate the service schedule. Number 4, I suggest you use, you have redundancy. And by redundancy and backup, what I mean is always have additional filtration. So again, referring to the 100 or referring to the 60, 2 canister filters and a hang-on back, and you could argue that any one of those could handle the entire tank. In the case of the 100 gallon, I only have the Fluval FX6, but I do have a 704B not being used that I could rapidly take the media out of the Fluval, put it into the 704B, as I have done when the purge valve at the bottom of the Fluval failed. So, and so I have that backup. So either have redundancy, so that if one fails, another one can carry the load while you repair it, or have a backup filter. Pick one up on Craigslist, pick up a used one, have it laying around, and you can put it into use right away. Okay, redundancy and backups. Number 5 is I've become a believer in what are called egg crate sponges. Those are, you can see it here. You can see this. This is an example of an egg crate sponge, and these egg crate sponges, just from a geography viewpoint, compare the surface area here. Compare this surface area to this surface area. This is a tremendous amount of more surface area. A lot, and so that's going to capture a lot more. It's going to spread it out, so it's going to avoid clogging, because you're not going to have everything concentrated on one spot. It's going to spread it out over more space, so your chance of clogging is less. So I like these. I like these a lot, and so I recommend egg crate sponges. Okay, and Fluval. You know, Fluval does a lot of research, right? They send their very expensive canisters out with egg crate sponges. That should tell you something. Now, knowing the flow of your Fluval, your egg crate sponges in your center section should be pointing up so that the water flows through them this way in the middle of your Fluval, okay? As opposed to the Sun where you put them in the bottom tray and they're this way because the water is moving this way through them, okay? Number six, tank water rinsing of biomedia. Rinse your biomedia in tank water. Now, if you're a total purist, rinse your tank, rinse your sponges, rinse your biomedia, rinse all of it in tank water. Some people will rinse out the canister in tank water. I will clean things up in tank water, but I clean out the canister with a, in the faucet, with a faucet or a hose. So I haven't had any problems with that. But definitely, if you watched my videos, like in the playlists for canister maintenance, there's a playlist that I have on canister maintenance. I always fill 2 buckets of clean tank water. First bucket, I rinse everything, and then I store it in the clean water bucket, and it sits there while I go and I clean out the canister, okay, the shell. Same thing for your hang-on back. You take your hang-on back off, put your bio, rinse your bio in tank water, store that media and in the clean tank water, go clean out the the intake tubing and the inside of the hang-on back, when you do that kind of service, okay? Number seven, using output placement for oxygen production. So the outputs of your filters can be used in some ways like powerheads. You can, I place the outputs so that I don't use the spray bars. Instead, I just put an elbow. I just use an elbow pipe, and I point it slightly up, and that breaks up the surface tension, creates any kind of a film buildup on the surface, which I don't like, and instead is creating a lot of circulation on the top. Why? I like water movement, and also it oxygenates. It oxygenates your tank. So you can see here in this video, there's a bit of a blade output from the Rio pump that is going back to the sump behind me, and that is pointed slightly upward, and it's creating a lot of water movement on the surface of my tank. The 704B output, which is back behind these plants, is also slightly up, so you have this confluence, these 2 water flows colliding and stirring stuff up, and I think that's a good thing because it's breaking up the surface. And if you have bubblers, air stones, it's doing the same thing. It's breaking the surface tension, allowing CO2, right, carbon dioxide, to escape, and it's allowing oxygen to get into your water. So use your outputs to create surface tension breakup. Number 8, or number 9 rather, coarse sponge pre-filters and rinsing them in during water changes. I picked up a coarse sponge pre-filter for my fluval. You can see it here in this video, and I've been happy with it. It holds on to pieces of detritus. It captures food that the fish can then come over and eat before it gets sucked into the filter, and it gets the waste to kind of break down into a fine waste before it goes into the filtration system. It allows me to extend the amount of time between filter maintenance because a lot of it is getting caught on the pre-filter. That pre-filter is also a big home for biological bacteria, good bacteria, beneficial bacteria. So go ahead and pull it off and rinse it in tank water with every water change. In my case, every week. I pull it off and I rinse it. So you can do it that way. So coarse sponge pre-filters is number 9. Number 10, learn about sumps. I suggest that you start learning about sumps. If you're going to be advancing in the hobby, eventually you're going to end up in a big tank, a 150 like this one behind me, or maybe something larger. And you should learn about sumps, learn about how they work, because someday you'll probably end up with one. I love them for 2 primary reasons. 1, flexibility. Tremendously flexible. I want to put some charcoal, which I did recently, put some charcoal in the sump. You drop it in. I was putting some charcoal because I'd medicated this tank, and then after you're done with medication, you want to remove residual medication. Charcoal is good for that. Normally I don't run charcoal. I put a bag of charcoal in one of these bags, right? I bought some loose charcoal, I put it in the bag, and I drop it in the sump, and in a couple of weeks, maybe a month, I'll pull it out of the sump and I'll throw it out, and it's really that easy. It takes 5 seconds. I love that. You can't do that with a canister. You got to open the canister up, take out what you've got to take out to make room for the charcoal, put the charcoal in. If you use charcoal, you need to throw it out every now and then. Open up the canister, take it out, throw it out. I love canisters because they're quiet, because they can run for a long time. Some people call them nitrate factories. I have not found that to be the case. If you do maintenance and with those pre-filters, they tend to stay pretty clean. They're a great home for beneficial bacteria. They don't lack oxygen because the water is getting oxygenated before it goes back into the canister. There's a lot of false information about canisters circulating. I think they're good. I think they're quiet. But getting back to sumps, the sumps do make a little bit of noise, but not a lot. What you hear right now, that's how noisy my sump is. It's not bad. Okay, it's like a brook that's 50 feet away. So sumps, one, ease of use, and two, they add water volume, and by virtue of adding water volume, they actually dilute the things that you want to have diluted in your tank, right? So your nitrates, your parts per million go down. So in this case, this is 150. There's about 30 gallons, maybe 40 gallons in that sump that I'm using. So it's actually the capacity of a 180 or maybe a 190, okay? So, so that actually helps to dilute nitrates and things of that fashion, all right? Sumps, I think, are the king of filtration. If you go into onto the websites or YouTube channels that are showing live coral, soft corals, the guy has $10,000 in coral in his aquarium. He has a very large sump system. So that should tell you something about sumps and why they would choose that kind of filtration, okay? So those are my top 10, right? Number 1, know the flow. Number 2, media in the right order. Number 3, alternate service schedule. Number 4, have redundancy and backups in your filters. Number 5, egg crate sponges for more surface area. Number 6, use tank water for the rinsing of biomedia and sponges if you like. Number 7, use your outputs for the placement. Place your outputs for oxygen production. Number 8, use your power heads to move detritus towards the filter out inputs. Did I miss that one? Number 8, I position power heads so that they move detritus towards the input of my filter intakes. I have a high door that moves over 2,000 gallons an hour back here. It's pushing a lot of water this way towards the intakes on this tank, which are the overflow box right here, and the Sun 704B intake, which is behind these plants. By the way, these plants are from Elite Cichlids, and I will be giving away a $20 gift card to Elite Cichlids. So stay tuned for more on that. So number 8 was use power heads to move detritus towards filter inputs. Number 9, I recommend coarse sponge pre-filters. Use coarse, don't use medium or fine because it'll get clogged and you'll have a reduced water flow, and that's not good. So use coarse and rinse them every water change, every week if you can, in tank water. And number 10, sump filters are king. Learn about them. If you have a 75 gallon or larger, consider a sump. You can add one to a tank that isn't drilled with an overflow box, okay? Just Google overflow box on YouTube and you'll get a whole bunch of videos, all right? Those are my top 10. This is the edited version of the live stream because the live stream did have a little bit of a glitch in the middle because of a Wi-Fi issue. So here you have the edited version with just the points, just the 10 key points. If you want to hear the answers to questions, more of the interaction, go to the live stream. And you'll notice I'm wearing an old Hat Nation t-shirt today. That's a shout out to my friend Evan Alexander, who just released a video, The Truth About IFG. Watch it. He lays it all out. I respect him for it, and it's a great video, okay? So that's it for me. Thank you for tuning in, my friends. You are appreciated. Comment below. Hit that bell. Be sure to hit that bell and sub if you haven't already. You rock, my friends. I mean it. And that's it for me. Thank you so much.